Okay, so I am going to be talking about Balanced Rock, North Salem, New York. And this is from Atlas Obscura. And that is the rock right there. And what you have to do is pay close attention to details. All right, and what you have to understand mud fossils, first of all, and understand that some of these creatures were extremely large. And this I can obviously validate because this is a hair follicle from a very, very large creature. And here is that hair follicle, basically just like ours. This is where the muscle attaches right here. That is the sebaceous gland right there. That's the hair shaft coming up to the top. And this is the hair root. It grows down and comes straight up. And there it is there. Muscle, sebaceous gland, and it even has the vein and artery, the two round spots right there. All right, so that is from a very, very, very large creature. And so is that rock that I just showed you. And I will show you anatomically what that rock is, just as I have shown you anatomically what this hair follicle is. And as you can see, this is enormous compared to ours. Now, I don't know what kind of creature it was in, but there's no creature that lives, obviously, today that has a hair follicle that large. I mean, that's big. Okay, my friends, shocker du jour. This is North Salem Dolmen, called a Balanced Rock in North Salem, and it's a boulder. And they can't explain it, but there was theories about it, and the people that presented them were destroyed. And that was part of this revelation to me by a friend. And then I started looking at it, because I understand these things quite well. And I understand, you know, I'm going to explain to you precisely what it is, and we'll go from there. Okay, so my claim is the heart's preserved quite well, and this, my friend, is a heart. And you see this little seam right here? And you see that right there? And I'm going to show you some other things too. And I believe I have shown you, or will show you, that I believe that's a hand holding up this heart. And these are fingertips. And these were monuments to giants. And this green seam right here is where blood is feeding moss. These ancient rocks still have blood within them. And the moss grows where it can find the most amount of red blood, or even mostly red blood. Okay, so my evidence for a heart is this. This is an actual heart. And you see the plumbing here? You see that plumbing right there? You see this seam right here with the heavy blood? You see this seam right here with the heavy blood? Well, what does moss love? It loves blood. Well, that's moss growing in that heavy seam of blood. And there's that valve at the top. And then there's all this is plumbing up in here too, which a normal heart has as well. You see all this stuff here? There's a whole blob of things going on here, and there they are right there. All of this stuff is tubing, and all of this red blood provides food for moss to grow. Moss loves red blood, and I will show you that for a fact. And you see, all it takes is just a little bit of moisture, and it grows like crazy because it loves the red blood. Okay, I believe this is a toe or a fingertip. And that's where the blood supplies came in, and that's where this stuff's still growing there. There's still actually blood inside this. Looks like solid sandstone, but it isn't. Anytime you find moss growing in exact spots, little tiny holes, that's because there was blood there. Now, I believe this is the bottom, and I think I still see fingerprints or toe prints on there. You see those little tiny lines? I'm going to look at it in a microscope, but it looks like it to me. They look like they still might be there. But I think this was the bottom, and he died laying like this in a flood like all the rest of them, and they disassociated the bones from the other place. And there's going to be blood supplies we might be able to see in here too. And that's a fingertip or a toe, one or the other. I'm almost certain of that. So let's take a look at and this one here is the same thing, almost solid sandstone. And why they have these angles on them and these, I'll show you. I have some really good close-up shots of this. Very interesting stuff to me. I'll see what you think. All right, you have to pay attention to the details. This is the center of this bone. All right, and it was some form of a bone. And this is the outside of it. All right, now take your time and look. Slow down. You got to look at that fine line that surrounds it. Now, I would say that it died in this manner here. So this ran out downwards. All right, and collected in here, and the blood is still, there's some kind of nutrition still in there for that to grow on. Other than that, it's just 100% sandstone. I mean, it's extremely sandstone. Now, that's the one spot on there. All right, let's look at the other one. I'm going to set it up in a microscope. But we're looking at that foot right there. All right, and that's that one spot right there. And now we're going to look at another one that is on this side here. All right, so let me get it set up. Okay, this thing is really unbalanced here. So you to the right, you should see, I believe that's the artery blood, and to the left is the vein. And the vein really doesn't grow anything out of it. The artery does, and I believe that's the vein. Again, it's real wiggly because it's just not, I can't get it stable. All right, and I think this is where the bone is right here. That's the outside edge of the bone. And probably comes right over like this, almost into that blood. All right, I looked at the bottom underneath here, and I can't really make anything out that I could claim as fingerprints, but I think I could see them up in here. I really can't make that claim, but boy, I'll tell you, they sure look like it to me. But anyway, that's very hard to make that claim, but I can make this claim. That's one or the other, our vein and artery, and I believe this is the artery side because it always grows the greenest. Now, I'm going to show you a giant fingertip that I had DNA tested, and it has the same vein and artery right in the same place. All right, this is a fingertip I had here on my property, and that's the vein and the artery, same like this here, vein and artery. Now, this still has the little pad that bumps it between the next bone so that they don't rub. That's that little pad. This is the fingernail. All right, this one's all worn off, but you can almost see where it was there. Now, this part here I had to break off because it was perfect. It was absolutely flawless, and I mean flawless. The fingerprints, everything, as I will show you. And I had to break this piece off so I could get down inside because the outside was really, really what they call keratinized. I'll show you that. All right, here's what it looked like on the outside. Hold on, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. All right. Now, this is what your grip skin looks like. All right. Grip skin means the stuff on your fingers and your toes and your palms of your hand. It's a very, very dense, a lot of keratin. There's no blood. But down here, it's saturated with blood, a lot of blood. So I broke this off, and here was the fingerprints. You see the fingerprints? It still had the fingerprints on there. My thumb is about as wide as one of these fingerprints. You know, one of the ridges. See the little holes? They're sweat pores. That's what your sweat pores in your fingers, and that's what they are. The sweat pores are almost the size of my finger. All right, you probably never heard of the heel stone at Stonehenge, but this is the heel stone. It's a foot. It's literally, I mean, nobody can miss it. It's a foot. Here's the toes. And at the tips, you see that little spot and that little spot? Let me come in real close. You see those little white tips there, little spot? Those are the terminals at the end where the blood comes out and then it comes back the other side. The artery brings it down and the vein brings it back. And these are those toes, and these little holes are exactly what you find at the end of fingers and toes. That's why this one here, you see the blood came right out of that side. There's another one over here. There's two on this side and two on that side. That's the way it works. All All right, and that is a foot. Now, Stonehenge is another monument to a giant. They built these all around the world. Now, they must have had other giants that were still around that memorialized them. That's all I can think of. And this was all during the Great Flood. And I think he was flat like that. You see how flat that side is? I think he died, boom, just like that. Just like my no-toe here, I think died on this side. It's like that. They're all laying flat. Now, and again, three of my stuff, hold on. Three of mine are DNA tested, and they're all from the Great Flood. And see how flat that is? Flat as a pancake. And he died, and what happened was it was so hot in some certain areas, and this must have been my area, where it boiled all the flesh off and left the organs intact due to this fascia. I originally called this fascia-facilitated fossilization. That was 15 years ago. But then I realized it was mostly the mud to protect them, so I changed the name to Mudfossils. You couldn't see that, could you? Let me just be sure you understand it. You probably didn't hear me or see what I was showing. I know you heard me. Now, I believe this giant died laying this way on with his foot because it's flat. Wherever they're flat is where they died in the Great Flood, I believe. Because my stuff is like that too. You see? This one's flat as a pancake. And the same thing with this lung. Flat as a pancake. And like again, I said, this must have been a hot water area, so hot that it boiled the flesh off of everything and only left the fascia-coated body parts. And some stuff completely preserved, like my buddy here, Augustus Caesar. He's a goose, Augustus. And there's his feathers. And he died the same thing, flat on this side and virtually perfect on that side. His bill or his beak or whatever they call it, and there's his feathers. I have so much stuff, it's absolutely unbelievable. And then of course the giant stuff, I have giant stuff, and they're all over. So somebody back then made memorials to these giants, and they had to be more giants as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how they could have put these big stones on top of other stones the way they did. And as far as I'm concerned, this one in Salem is held up by a hand. Those are fingers holding it up. And this is where the blood is making things grow green. I'm literally 100% sure this is a heart. And I'm 100% sure those are fingers. And I'm 100% sure Stonehenge, Heelstone, is a foot. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at this. There was giants all over the earth and in space too. That's a heart. That's a heart. That's a heart. This is Bennu and that's Psyche. They're out in space and these are hearts, and that's exactly what they look like here. I've done a couple of videos on them, there's no question. This ridge right here is this ridge right here of connective tissue, very strong compared to that. Other than that, these are the heart valves. You see the valves? These are the valves. And they're all over the place. And not only that, they have the plumbing sticking out the side too. Some of these pieces sticking out. There's a ton of plumbing. This is the ridge that surrounds the top, which is that heavy, where'd it go here? It's around here somewhere. Oh, here it is. These are those valves, the big valves, they're all over the place, and then this gooey stuff eroded away, and then you can see that ridge coming around here, just exactly what I showed you a second ago. Precisely. You see it? That's that ridge. And this is that red and yellow and gooey stuff that went away. These are valves. Those are not necessarily impact sites. All right, so I'm just telling you right now, we missed the boat on everything. There was giants, exactly like it said in the ancient texts, and they had to be in space too. As far as I'm concerned, these are battles in the heavens. Looks pretty damn accurate to me. And these guys made made memorials to the giants, and I think they must have been the descendants of the giants in order to move these gigantic rocks and put them, because that's not a natural formation. Those fingers are holding that rock up. And you see, remember all these plumbing and things here? This is a heart. That's a heart a friend of mine found, and he took a hammer, he hit it, and it broke right along that seam. And it had red blood inside. And then, of course, it's different phases of the blood, because you got a arterial side and a pulmonary side, the vein side. And after an hour or two, it turned into this color because it oxidized. The red blood oxidized. So you don't normally find them like this. This was pretty spectacular, to be honest with you. But it is precisely what a heart is. It's just like this. And it has all that plumbing coming out of the top. That's why you got all these little things here. See that? See those? Those are, whoops, those are the same as these things. And he smacked it and it cracked right across the top. Don't forget, they just went up and got a sample of that, and I did a video saying you will find there's blood in there. That is blood because it's a heart. The sample they took off of there is going to be saturated with blood, and it already is. They said it's clay and a lot of carbon. They're going to find it's saturated with all the metals that are in the heart, or in blood, and ferrous oxides, iron oxides, a lot of that. And it's going to be, I already posted the whole thing, exactly what they're going to find for chemistry. All right, this is another shocker du jour. This is a fingertip. And you see the little cavity here, and this little spot? Basically, you're seeing the same thing here. But not only that, I believe this is a fingernail. I believe that was where the fingernail was. All right? And anytime you see green moss growing, like here and here, that's from blood. Now, so look at it carefully. I'm going to home in on that. All right, now, I could be wrong, but I could be right, too. This looks to me like it was where the fingernail was. And I can see this pattern here. I know this pattern very well. And that's the central bone. And then on the sides, there's blood supplies, and there's also tendons run on both sides. And that's this fingertip that I have right here, and is basically the same as that. And it is a fingertip. You see it? Not only that, so you want to see something cool? This is the artery side. And you see how I know that? You see that? That's the blood. The blood has run out. It died laying like this. Now let me see if you can see this. The red blood. I could put this in a microscope, which I probably should. And that's the red blood running out. That's what makes crystals. And this is like, I don't know what it is. But it's some kind of crystal coming out of here. And that's because this was in a condition where it turned solid stone due to some chemical process, and this was laying down this way. So the blood had nowhere to go at the end, and it just snapped right out of the end. They have holes. Right at the very tip, they transfer the last bit of blood over to the vein side to come back. And this, again, was the artery side right here. And the vein side is over here. And the vein side have clamps, and they clamp right off. The artery side just sent the blood out through that hole. And it's all crusted on the bottom too. That's all blood. That's all blood. You see these little things in here? That's grip skin. All right, so it's pretty interesting. I find this stuff is just fascinating as hell. So what I'm saying is I think this thing is held up by fingertips. And these are monuments to giants, and that's the heart of a giant. Now, I got interrupted a few times, as I always do, and I think I mentioned this guy in the beginning, how he was destroyed by academia, absolutely destroyed, for speaking about what he thought these these ancient scripts might indicate. Now, that's a slippery slope, because I don't know what they indicate, because they're just text. I have things that are not just text. I have absolute physical evidence, blood and DNA tests and CAT scans and specimens. It cannot be denied. And these things are so spectacular that I have been shut down, just exactly like they do to him. And they did to Velikovsky, and they did to Tesla, and they do to everybody that comes up with something that is basically spectacular and almost beyond belief, that is so fought against because of the belief structure of the ones that have menticide. And menticide means you're basically brainwashed. And they are. They're told to say exactly what they're told to say, and if they deviate, they're either destroyed in their endeavors to be successful in whatever that success is. Because trust me, it's not an easy road, and very, very difficult to speak about these things and without being assaulted, literally assaulted. It's been happening to me for 15 years, and I just had to say, forget it, I don't care. I do not care about it. You just call me whatever you want to call me. Je ne sais pas. I do not care. I do not understand why you do this. But that's what's happened, and I do understand, really, because they're stuck. They're slaves to their superiors. And that's how life is right across the board. You're a slave to your superior. I don't care what they call it. They say you're free. You're not free. We're all slaves. Right? That's just a fact. We are all slaves. I still love you, but you're a slave. and people just don't realize that they're paying to be slaves now. They pay academia to get educated to say what they tell them to say, and if they don't say what they tell them to say, they destroy their lives. That's not a good system. I think an open forum of discussion and literally free education, basically, and that's what I'm presenting, because this is education. I don't care how you look at it. This is education. If you want to dispute it, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for questions and answers. Not like the other ones that say, oh, send me a question, send me an answer, send me a question, I'll answer it. No. It's like Fermilab, Don Lincoln. I tried to present all my work to him about accelerating light and all that stuff. 8 years. Complete denial, won't talk. And I have all the evidence to prove and support every word I say. And there's no hiding from it. Eventually it's going to come out. Everything I'm showing, there is no hiding from it. And right now they are stepping up and saying, you know, we got to address this. And they're trying to figure a way to address it and not look like fools. And there is no way. There is no way. They should have done it long ago. And now we know that academia is not to be trusted. They're just not to be trusted. Anyway, I love you all, and stick with me. We're going to go through every little detail of everything that's been ignored and destroyed in the intelligent realm. Because that's where we are now. Menticided. All right, look it up, menticide.